People laughed when Mona Kimura entered professional kickboxing. Too pretty, too small, too inexperienced, too nice. They thought she looked more like a Barbie than a fighter. They couldn't have been more wrong. Because one by one, every person who underestimated her ended up learning the exact same lesson. Looks don't win fights. Before we begin, hit like, subscribe, and tell me this. Who would you rather face for one round? Mona Kimura or Dakota Ditcheva? Leave your answer in the comments, because by the end of this video, you might completely change your mind. Her professional debut arrived in November of 2024. The event was Crush 167, and despite everything she had accomplished before turning pro, there was still one question hanging over her career. Could Mona Kimura actually succeed in professional kickboxing? Or had she simply been dominating sports that were completely different? Her opponent wasn't interested in her amateur titles. She wasn't interested in Mona's boxing medals or her karate championships. She wanted to welcome the newcomer the same way many veterans do, with pressure. From the opening bell, Mona immediately showed something unusual.
さあその赤、木村モナがサウスポー、そして荻原愛がオーソドックス。
ファーストコンタクトはああいうね、蹴りの上段の前蹴り素晴らしいですね。
木村モナは今回はですね、蹴りからつなげていきたいということなんですよね。
いいですね、この元ボクシングっていうね、そういう実績なのに、この全然パンチじゃないとですね、期待が膨らみます。
そして対する荻原愛がとにかくパンチで私は倒したんだ。
She wasn't fighting like a rookie. There was no nervous energy, no wasted movement, no wild exchanges. Everything looked calculated. Every step had a purpose. Every kick was setting up something else. Her lead leg became a constant problem.
そうですね。
デビュー戦とは思えない冷静さというか。
空手の時は前蹴りしか蹴ってるイメージないですね。
ああ、そうなんですか。
本当に
前足の上段前蹴りでずっと。
Not because she was trying to score a knockout with it, but because she was using it exactly the way a world-class boxer uses a jab. Touch, reset, touch again, disrupt the rhythm. Every time her opponent tried to close the distance, another front kick stopped the advance. Another side kick interrupted the attack. Another angle forced her to start over. It wasn't flashy. It was frustrating. And frustration creates mistakes. Exactly what Mona was waiting for. The moment her opponent became impatient, Mona changed levels. The kicks disappeared. The hands came alive. A perfectly timed left straight exploded through the guard. The impact immediately changed the fight. Her opponent stumbled backward, trying to recover, but Mona didn't rush. She stayed composed. One more opening, one more mistake, another clean punch. This time, there was no recovery. The referee stepped in. The count began. The arena erupted. Less than 2 minutes into her professional career, Mona Kimura had already produced a spectacular knockout. The critics who questioned whether karate and boxing could work together inside a kickboxing ring had their answer. But something even more interesting happened after the fight. People stopped talking about her appearance. They started talking about her style. Fans couldn't stop comparing her movement to Chun-Li, not because of the hairstyle, not because she was Japanese, but because nobody else attacked from those angles. Nobody else balanced on one leg with that much confidence. Nobody else made kicking look so effortless. Her debut wasn't simply a victory. It was proof that Mona wasn't trying to imitate anyone. She was creating something entirely her own. Most fighters spend years trying to find their identity. Mona found hers in a single night. And just when people thought they had finally figured her out, the next opponent arrived with a completely different plan. She believed pressure would expose Mona's weaknesses. Instead, she would become the next person to discover that the monster behind the smile was only getting started.
どんどん前に来ようというところでそれを一つ牽制するかのようなボディだ。これはノーダウンです。
これ以上ないもうキャリアでエリートですよね。
そうですね。ただ本人木村本人はですねボクシングであれば誰にも負けない自信はあるんだけれども蹴りの部分で前回の荻原戦
After such a dominant debut, some people still weren't convinced. One knockout could always be a coincidence. Maybe her opponent wasn't ready. Maybe she got lucky. Maybe professional kickboxing would eventually expose the holes in her game. That's exactly why her second fight attracted so much attention. Standing across from her was Yuka, an experienced fighter, tough, aggressive, and known for constantly moving forward. Unlike her first opponent, Yuka had no intention of giving Mona space. The plan was simple: close the distance, force exchanges, turn the fight into a brawl. It sounded good on paper. Inside the ring, it fell apart almost immediately. The moment the opening bell rang, Mona went back to doing what nobody had been able to solve. She controlled the distance before Yuka could even establish her rhythm. Front kicks, side kicks, body kicks. Every attack landed with purpose. Every strike interrupted Yuka's offense before it could even begin. It almost looked unfair. Whenever Yuka stepped forward, she was greeted by another kick. Whenever she tried changing angles, another strike was already waiting. Instead of chasing the knockout, Mona slowly took away every option her opponent had. It wasn't reckless aggression. It was controlled domination. And that made it even more frustrating to watch from Yuka's perspective. By the end of the first round, the damage was already beginning to show. Yuka's body had absorbed countless kicks. Her face was marked by clean punches. And perhaps most importantly, she still hadn't found a way inside. Most fighters become predictable after a few exchanges. Mona became harder to read. She constantly changed her rhythm, sometimes attacking first, sometimes waiting, sometimes throwing 3 kicks in a row, then suddenly exploding with a sharp boxing combination. Years of karate had taught her how to manage distance. Years of boxing had taught her exactly what to do once an opponent finally got close. It was the perfect combination. Late in the fight, Yuka realized she had no choice. She had to gamble. She rushed forward, trying to force the exchanges she'd been looking for all night. It was exactly what Mona had been waiting for. Instead of backing away, she planted her feet. A clean left hand, a right behind it, then another kick to the body. Every attack landed. Every exchange belonged to Mona. By the final bell, there was no controversy, no debate, no split decision. The judges awarded Mona Kimura another clear victory. 2 professional fights, 2 wins, 1 knockout, 1 dominant decision. But the record wasn't the biggest story anymore. People had started noticing something much more dangerous. She wasn't relying on one weapon. Against her first opponent, her boxing finished the job. Against Yuka, her kicking game completely controlled the fight. 2 completely different performances. The same result, victory. And that's when the conversation started changing. Fans stopped asking, can Mona succeed in kickboxing? Now they were asking something else. Who is actually going to stop her? Because every fight was revealing another layer of her game. And the next opponent would force Mona to show an even more ruthless side. A veteran, nearly 20 professional fights, someone who had never been stopped before. Most people believed experience would finally slow the young prospect down. Instead, it became the performance that changed Mona Kimura's career forever. Nobody had ever stopped Sadako Ozawa until she stood across from Mona Kimura. And what happened next is the reason fans started calling her a monster. Most prospects build confidence by fighting inexperienced opponents. Mona Kimura didn't have that luxury. Her third professional fight came against Satoko Ozawa, a veteran of the Japanese kickboxing scene. Her opponent. nearly 20 professional fights. Years of experience. What could a 23-year-old prospect possibly show her that she hadn't already experienced? The answer came almost immediately. Every front kick forced Ozawa's guard higher. Every side kick pushed her backward. Everything was connected. Kick, punch, move, reset, kick again. Mona kept increasing the pressure. By the end of the first round, the damage was impossible to ignore. Then the second round arrived, and everything escalated. Mona's combinations became longer. Her punches landed cleaner. The kicks came from every angle imaginable. High kicks, body kicks, front kicks, each one forcing Ozawa to defend a different target. There was simply no time to recover. The cut around Ozawa's eye became worse, then worse again. The referee watched closely. The ringside doctor stepped in. The fight was over. Technical knockout. For the first time in her professional career, Satoko Ozawa had been stopped. By a young woman many people thought looked more like a fashion model than a fighter. That's when the conversation completely changed. Nobody was talking about Mona's appearance anymore. Nobody questioned whether she belonged in professional kickboxing. Now people were asking something entirely different. How good could she actually become? 3 professional fights, 3 victories, 2 finishes, and every performance looked more impressive than the last. Most fighters become predictable after a few wins. Mona was becoming harder to solve, because every fight revealed a different version of her, and her next opponent would be the biggest challenge of her career so far. A national champion, someone who had spent months studying Mona's unusual style, someone who believed she had finally found the blueprint to beat her. She couldn't have been more wrong. For the first time, someone entered the ring with a strategy built specifically to stop Mona Kimura. But what happened next proved something terrifying. You can't prepare for someone who changes every time she fights. And that made her 4th fight her real test. Her opponent was a South Korean national champion, experienced, disciplined, and fully prepared. She had studied Mona's previous fights in detail. Every kick, every entry, every rhythm shift. She came with a plan. And for the first time, Mona was facing someone expecting her. Final sequence came fast. The champion stepped in. Mona timed it perfectly. Straight left split the guard. Follow-up combination landed clean. The referee stepped in. Technical knockout. Another undefeated fighter. Another prepared opponent. Another plan destroyed. And that's what makes Mona Kimura different. It's not power. It's not speed. It's adjustment. Mona does it in seconds. Every opponent that faced her came in with something. Experience. A strategy. A plan. But none of it survived contact. Not because they were unprepared, but because the fight never stayed the same long enough for their preparation to matter. And the most unsettling part? She's still evolving, still sharpening, still becoming harder to read every time she steps in. She was built to be unreadable. Hit like and subscribe for more untold fighter stories.